The Receiving Mindset, Cultivating Abundance in Work and Life. Introduction. Sarah's Awakening. Sarah stared at the wilting plant on her windowsill, a gift from her well-meaning neighbor. Despite her best efforts, it seemed determined to die. She sighed, feeling a strange kinship with the struggling greenery. Wasn't that just like life? Even when good things came her way, she somehow couldn't make them thrive. As she reached for her phone to Google yet another plant revival technique, it buzzed with a notification. An email from an old college friend. "Hey Sarah, I've got an extra ticket to this amazing workshop this weekend. It's called The Art of Receiving. Want to join? It might be just what you need." Sarah's finger hovered over the delete button. A workshop on receiving? What did that even mean? She was about to dismiss it when her eyes fell once again on the wilting plant. Maybe it was time to try something different. With a mix of skepticism and curiosity, she typed out a reply, "Sure, why not?" Little did Sarah know, this simple yes would be the first step on a transformative journey, one that would teach her not just how to keep plants alive, but how to truly embrace the abundance life had to offer. In the chapters that follow, we'll join Sarah as she navigates the ups and downs of learning the art of receiving. Through her experiences, challenges, and breakthroughs, we'll explore practical techniques and profound insights that can help us all open our hearts and minds to life's gifts. So, are you ready to join Sarah on this adventure? To learn alongside her as she discovers the delicate balance of giving and receiving that creates a truly fulfilling life. Then let's begin our journey into the art of receiving, a journey to abundance. Chapter 1. The Workshop. Sarah arrived at the community center, her stomach a knot of nerves. The room was already half full of people chatting animatedly. As she scanned for a quiet corner to hide in, a warm voice caught her attention. "Welcome. I'm Kelvin, your guide for today's journey into the art of receiving." Sarah turned to see a man with kind eyes and an infectious smile. Despite her nervousness, she found herself smiling back. Kelvin had an aura of calm confidence that seemed to put everyone at ease. "Now," Kelvin continued, addressing the group, "I want you all to close your eyes and think about the last time you received a compliment. How did it make you feel?" Sarah's mind immediately went to last week's team meeting. Her boss had praised her work on the Johnson account, saying her innovative approach had saved the client thousands of dollars. Instead of feeling proud, she'd felt uncomfortable, awkward, like she needed to deflect the praise or minimize her achievement. If you felt anything less than joyful acceptance, Kelvin's voice broke into her thoughts, "You're not alone." Many of us struggle with receiving, whether it's compliments, help, or even love. But why? As Kelvin began to explain the cultural and personal barriers to receiving, Sarah found herself nodding along. It was as if he was reading her mind, putting words to feelings she'd never fully articulated. In many cultures, we're taught from a young age that it's better to give than to receive, Kelvin explained. While generosity is undoubtedly a virtue, this mindset can lead us to believe that receiving is somehow selfish or weak. But think about it. If everyone only gave and never received, who would we be giving to? A murmur of realization rippled through the room. Sarah had never thought about it that way before. Receiving isn't passive, Kelvin emphasized. It's an active choice to open ourselves to life's abundance. It's about creating space in our lives and hearts for good things to enter. When we refuse to receive, we're not just denying ourselves, we're denying others the joy of giving. Sarah glanced around the room, seeing her own mix of skepticism and hope mirrored on other faces. Could it really be that simple? Just choosing to receive? As if sensing her doubt, Kelvin smiled. "Don't worry, we're going to practice. Let's start with a simple exercise. I want you to pair up with the person next to you. One of you will be the giver, and one will be the receiver. The giver will offer the receiver a sincere compliment. The receiver's job is to accept it fully, no deflecting, no self-deprecation, just a simple thank you." Sarah felt a flutter of panic. She looked to her left and met the eyes of a friendly-looking woman about her age. "Hi, I'm Emma," the woman said with a warm smile. "Want to partner up?" Sarah nodded, grateful for Emma's easy manner. "I'm Sarah. Nice to meet you." "Okay," Kelvin's voice rang out. "Givers, you're up first." Offer your partner a genuine compliment. Emma looked at Sarah thoughtfully for a moment. I love your earrings, she said. They really bring out the color of your eyes. Sarah felt the familiar urge to deflect. Oh, these old things, she wanted to say. I've had them forever. But remembering Kelvin's instructions, she took a deep breath and simply said, thank you. To her surprise, she felt a small surge of warmth in her chest. It felt nice. Accepting the compliment didn't make her conceited or selfish. It just made her feel good. Great job, everyone, Kelvin said. Now, let's switch roles. As Sarah prepared to give Emma a compliment, she realized how often she held back from expressing genuine appreciation for others, fearing it might somehow be unwelcome or embarrassing. I admire how friendly and approachable you are, Sarah told Emma. You made me feel comfortable right away. Emma's face lit up. Thank you, she said, her voice warm with sincerity. As the exercise continued, the room filled with a palpable sense of positivity. People were smiling, laughing, and connecting. You see, Kelvin said, receiving isn't just about taking. It's about creating a cycle of positivity. When we receive graciously, we encourage others to give more freely. We create an atmosphere of abundance and appreciation. Sarah pondered this. How often had her reluctance to receive dampened others' generosity? How many moments of connection had she missed out on? Now, Kelvin continued, I want to introduce you to a concept I call the receiving mindset. This is a way of approaching life that's open to abundance in all its forms. It's about recognizing that the universe is constantly offering us gifts, some big, some small, and our job is to be ready to accept them. He went on to explain the key components of the receiving mindset. 1. Worthiness, believing that you deserve good things. 2. Openness, being willing to accept help, love, and opportunities. 3. Gratitude, appreciating what you receive, which in turn attracts more abundance. 4. Trust, having faith that the universe has your best interests at heart. 5. Letting go, releasing control and allowing good things to come to you. These might sound simple, Kelvin said, but they can be challenging to put into practice. Our next exercise will help us start developing this mindset. He instructed everyone to close their eyes and take a few deep breaths. I want you to imagine a gift, he said, his voice soft but clear. It can be anything, an object, an opportunity, a feeling, something you truly desire. See it clearly in your mind's eye. Now, imagine this gift is being offered to you. How do you feel? Do you reach out and take it? Or do you hesitate? Sarah saw in her mind's eye a vibrant, healthy version of her wilting plant. As she imagined it being offered to her, she felt a mix of longing and doubt. Did she deserve it? Could she keep it alive this time? Whatever you're feeling, it's okay, Kelvin's voice soothed. Just notice those feelings without judgment. Now, imagine yourself reaching out and accepting the gift. Feel the weight of it in your hands, the texture, the energy of it. Allow yourself to fully receive it, to feel worthy of it. As Sarah imagined accepting the thriving plant, she felt a shift inside her, a sense of possibility, of potential. Now, feel gratitude for this gift, Kelvin continued. Let that gratitude fill your heart, radiating out from you. This gratitude is like a beacon, signaling to the universe that you're ready and willing to receive more abundance. When Sarah opened her eyes, she felt different, lighter somehow, more open. Looking around, she saw similar expressions of wonder and realization on the faces of her fellow participants. What you just experienced, Kelvin said, was a taste of the receiving mindset. It might have felt uncomfortable at first, and that's okay. We're often conditioned to push away good things, to doubt our worthiness. But with practice, this mindset can become second nature. He went on to explain how this mindset could be applied in various areas of life: relationships, career, personal growth, and even health. When we approach life with a receiving mindset, we start to notice opportunities we might have overlooked before. We become more attuned to the abundance that surrounds us. And perhaps most importantly, we allow ourselves to be nourished and supported by that abundance. As the workshop continued, Sarah found herself engaging more and more. She shared her experiences, listened to others, and practiced the techniques Kelvin taught. With each exercise, she felt a little more of her skepticism melting away, replaced by a growing sense of possibility. Towards the end of the session, Kelvin introduced one final exercise. I want you all to think of one area in your life where you struggle to receive, he said. It could be accepting help from others, believing in compliments, allowing yourself to rest, anything that resonates with you. Now, I want you to make a commitment to practice receiving in that area this week. Sarah thought about her wilting plant, a symbol of her struggle to receive and nurture good things in her life. She made a silent commitment to not only care for the plant, but to allow herself to enjoy its beauty without guilt or doubt. As the workshop drew to a close, Sarah felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. The concepts she'd learned made sense, but could she really change years of ingrained habits? Kelvin, as if reading her thoughts, addressed the group one last time. Remember, learning to receive is a journey, not a destination. You won't perfect it overnight, and that's okay. Be patient with yourself. Celebrate small victories. And most importantly, stay open to the abundance that's already flowing your way. Sarah gathered her things, her mind buzzing with new ideas and possibilities. As she headed for the door, Emma caught up with her. Hey, that was really something, wasn't it? Emma said. A bunch of us are going to grab coffee and chat more about what we learned. Want to join? Sarah's first instinct was to politely decline. She had laundry to do, emails to answer. But then she remembered Kelvin's words about staying open to opportunities. This was a chance to connect, to practice receiving friendship and support. You know what? I'd love to, Sarah said, surprising herself with her enthusiasm. As they walked out into the sunshine, Sarah felt a sense of lightness she hadn't experienced in years. She didn't know exactly where this journey would lead her, but for the first time in a long time, she felt ready to receive whatever lay ahead. Little did Sarah know, this was just the beginning of her transformative journey into the art of receiving. The lessons she'd learned today would be put to the test in ways she couldn't yet imagine, challenging her to grow, to open her heart, and to embrace the abundance that had been waiting for her all along. Chapter 2. First Steps. Sarah woke up the next morning, the events of yesterday's workshop still swirling in her mind. As she blinked away the last vestiges of sleep, her eyes fell on the wilting plant on her windowsill. A wave of determination washed over her. Today would be different. Today, she would practice receiving. With a newfound sense of purpose, Sarah got out of bed and approached the plant. Okay, little guy, she said softly, let's try this again. She picked up the watering can and, instead of the usual rushed sprinkle, she took her time. She imagined the plant receiving the water, drawing it up through its roots, revitalizing itself. As she watered, Sarah recalled Kelvin's words about the receiving mindset. Believe you're worthy of good things, she murmured to herself. Be open to receiving help and nurturing. Just then, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Emma, her partner from yesterday's workshop. Hey Sarah, hope you're having a good morning. Remember, we're receiving champions today. Sarah smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. This simple act of reaching out, of offering support and connection, was exactly what Kelvin had talked about. And Sarah found that receiving it felt good. Thanks, Emma, she texted back. Here's to receiving with open arms today. As Sarah got ready for work, she made a conscious effort to approach her morning routine differently. Instead of rushing through her shower, she allowed herself to really feel the warm water on her skin, receiving its comfort and cleansing properties. She took time with her appearance, not out of vanity, but as an act of self-care. I'm worthy of looking and feeling my best, she told her reflection, trying to quell the voice in her head that whispered she was being selfish. On her way to work, Sarah decided to stop at her favorite coffee shop. As she waited in line, she overheard the barista complimenting a customer on their jacket. The customer immediately deflected, saying it was old and they got it on sale. Sarah recognized herself in that interaction and made a mental note to be more gracious in receiving compliments. When it was her turn to order, the barista greeted her with a warm smile. Good morning. What can I get for you today? A latte, please, Sarah replied, then added. And thank you for your cheerful service. It's a great way to start the day. The barista's smile widened. Thank you. That means a lot to hear. As Sarah waited for her drink, she reflected on this small interaction. By openly appreciating the barista's attitude, she had given them the opportunity to receive gratitude. It felt good, this cycle of giving and receiving. At work, Sarah found her new mindset immediately put to the test. Her colleague, Mark, stopped by her desk with a concerned look. Hey Sarah, I noticed you seemed a bit overwhelmed with the Johnson account yesterday. I've got some free time this morning if you'd like a hand with anything. Sarah's first instinct was to politely decline, to insist she had everything under control. But then she paused, remembering Kelvin's words about allowing others the joy of giving. She took a deep breath. You know what, Mark? That would be really helpful. Thank you. Mark's face lit up. Great. I'm happy to help. Let me know what you need. As they worked together, Sarah was surprised to find that accepting Mark's help didn't make her feel weak or incompetent. Instead, it fostered a sense of camaraderie and mutual support. She even found herself sharing some of her innovative ideas for the account, ideas she might have previously kept to herself out of insecurity. Wow, Sarah, Mark said, clearly impressed. These are brilliant. You should definitely present these at the team meeting this afternoon. Again, Sarah felt the urge to downplay her contributions. But instead, she smiled and said, Thank you, Mark. I think I will. The team meeting that afternoon became a turning point for Sarah. As she presented her ideas, she focused on receiving her colleagues' attention and feedback openly. When her boss praised her innovative approach, instead of deflecting, she simply said, Thank you. I'm glad you see the potential in these ideas. After the meeting, Sarah's boss pulled her aside. Great job in there, Sarah. I've been impressed with your work lately. In fact, I'd like to put you forward for the leadership training program we're starting next month. What do you think? Sarah felt a flutter of excitement, quickly followed by a wave of doubt. The old Sarah would have demurred, insisting there were others more qualified. But the new Sarah, the one learning to receive, took a deep breath and said, That sounds like an amazing opportunity. Thank you for considering me. I'd be honored to participate. As she walked back to her desk, Sarah felt a mix of exhilaration and fear. She had just opened herself up to a big opportunity. Could she handle it? Was she worthy of it? She decided to text Emma during her break. Big moment at work today. Practiced receiving a huge opportunity. Feeling excited but scared. Emma's reply came quickly. That's awesome, Sarah. Remember, you're worthy of good things. Breathe into the excitement and let the fear float away. You've got this. Sarah smiled, grateful for the support. She was beginning to understand what Kelvin meant about the importance of having a supportive community when learning to receive. That evening, as Sarah walked into her apartment, she was greeted by the sight of her plant. To her amazement, it looked a little perkier, its leaves a shade greener. Was it her imagination, or had her new approach to receiving already made a difference? As she prepared dinner, Sarah found herself moving more slowly, more mindfully. She focused on the textures of the vegetables as she chopped them, the aroma of the spices, the sound of the oil sizzling in the pan. She was receiving the experience of cooking, not just rushing through it as a chore. Just as she was sitting down to eat, her phone rang. It was her mother. Hi, sweetheart, how are you? Her mom's warm voice came through the speaker. I'm good, Mom, Sarah replied, surprised to find she really meant it. How are you? Oh, you know me, always busy. Listen, I was thinking of coming to visit this weekend. I could help you do some cleaning, maybe reorganize your closet. I know how hectic things can get with your job. In the past, Sarah might have felt a twinge of annoyance at this suggestion, seeing it as criticism of her housekeeping abilities. But today, she heard it differently. Her mother was offering love and support in the way she knew how. That would be lovely, Mom, Sarah said, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. I'd really enjoy spending time with you, and I'd appreciate the help. There was a pause on the other end of the line, and when her mother spoke again, Sarah could hear the smile in her voice. Wonderful. I'm looking forward to it, sweetheart. After they hung up, Sarah sat back, marveling at how differently she felt. By being open to receiving her mother's help, she had turned what could have been a stressful situation into an opportunity for connection. Chapter 3. Weathering the Storm. A week had passed since Sarah's transformative workshop, and she felt like she was walking on air. Her plant was showing signs of recovery, work was going well, and she'd even had a lovely weekend visit with her mother. The art of receiving seemed to be working its magic in every aspect of her life. But as Sarah would soon learn, the true test of her new skills would come not in times of ease, but in moments of challenge. It started on a rainy Monday morning. Sarah woke up late, having forgotten to set her alarm. As she rushed to get ready, she knocked over her now thriving plant, spilling soil all over the floor. No, 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 she muttered, frantically trying to scoop the dirt back into the pot. Her mind raced with frustrated thoughts. How could she have been so careless? Was this a sign that she wasn't cut out for this receiving thing after all? Taking a deep breath, Sarah remembered Kelvin's words. Receiving isn't just about the good stuff. It's about being open to all of life's experiences, even the challenging ones. She closed her eyes for a moment. Okay, she said aloud. What can I receive from this situation? As she cleaned up the mess, Sarah tried to shift her perspective. She received the wake-up call that she needed to be more mindful. She received the opportunity to care for her plant in a new way. And, she realized with a small smile, she received a pretty good arm workout from all the sweeping. By the time she left for work, Sarah was running late but feeling surprisingly calm. She had chosen to receive the morning's challenges as opportunities rather than disasters. However, her resolve was tested again when she arrived at the office. Her boss called her in, looking serious. Sarah, there's been a problem with the Johnson account, he said gravely. The client isn't happy with the latest proposal. They're threatening to pull out. Sarah felt her heart sink. The Johnson account was her big project, the one she'd been so proud of in last week's meeting. Her mind raced with defensive thoughts. It wasn't her fault. She'd done everything right. But then she paused. What if, instead of becoming defensive, she chose to receive this feedback? What could she learn from it? Taking a deep breath, Sarah said, I understand, sir. Can you tell me more about their concerns? I'd like to learn from this and find a way to make it right. Her boss looked surprised, then relieved. That's a great attitude, Sarah. Let's go through their feedback together. As they discussed the client's concerns, Sarah found herself truly listening, receiving the information without judgment. She realized that by being open to criticism, she was gaining valuable insights that could improve not just this project, but her work overall. By the end of the meeting, they had a solid plan to address the client's issues. As Sarah left her boss's office, she felt a mix of emotions, disappointment that her initial proposal hadn't succeeded, but also a sense of growth and possibility. During her lunch break, Sarah decided to call Emma for some moral support. Hey Sarah, how's it going? Emma's cheerful voice came through the phone. Well, it's been a challenging day, Sarah admitted, and proceeded to tell Emma about her morning mishaps and the issue with the Johnson account. Oh, wow, Emma said sympathetically. That does sound tough. But you know what? It sounds like you handled it all really well. You're really embracing this receiving thing. Sarah felt a warmth spread through her chest at Emma's words. She was receiving encouragement and validation, and it felt good. Thanks, Emma, she said. It's not easy, but I'm trying. Hey, would you like to grab dinner this week? I'd love to catch up properly. That sounds great, Emma replied enthusiastically. How about Wednesday? As they made plans, Sarah marveled at how easily she had suggested meeting up. In the past, she might have hesitated, worried about imposing or being rejected. But now, she was open to receiving friendship and connection. The rest of the workday passed in a blur of meetings and emails as Sarah worked on revising the Johnson proposal. By the time she left the office, she was exhausted but oddly satisfied. She had faced a major challenge and, instead of crumbling, had chosen to receive it as an opportunity for growth. On her way home, Sarah decided to stop by the local plant nursery. As she browsed the aisles, admiring the lush greenery, an elderly woman approached her. Excuse me, dear, the woman said. I hate to bother you, but could you possibly reach that bag of potting soil on the top shelf for me? These old bones aren't what they used to be. Sarah smiled warmly. Of course. I'd be happy to help. As she handed the bag to the woman, she felt a small glow of satisfaction. She was participating in the cycle of giving and receiving, just as Kelvin had described. Thank you so much, the woman said gratefully. You know, I've been gardening for over 50 years. If you ever need any tips, I'd be glad to share some wisdom. In the past, Sarah might have politely declined, not wanting to take up the woman's time. But now, she recognized this as another opportunity to receive. I'd love that, actually, Sarah said. I'm quite new to plant care, and I could use all the advice I can get. For the next 15 minutes, Sarah listened intently as the woman, who introduced herself as Rose, shared a wealth of gardening knowledge. Sarah found herself not just receiving information, but also receiving Rose's passion, her years of experience, and the simple joy of an unexpected connection. As they parted ways, Rose patted Sarah's hand. Thank you for listening to an old woman's ramblings, she said with a twinkle in her eye. It's not often young people these days have the patience for it. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, Sarah replied sincerely. I've learned so much. On her way home, arms full of new plants and gardening supplies, Sarah felt a deep sense of contentment. Despite the challenges of the day, she had remained open to receiving lessons, receiving help, receiving connection. As she tended to her plants that evening, including repotting the one that had fallen that morning, Sarah reflected on the day's events. She realized that receiving wasn't always easy or comfortable. Sometimes it meant being vulnerable, admitting mistakes, or stepping out of her comfort zone. But as she looked at her growing collection of plants, each one representing a lesson in nurturing and receiving, she knew she was on the right path. Before bed, Sarah decided to write in her journal again. She wrote about the challenges she'd faced, but also about the unexpected moments of connection and growth. She wrote about how receiving criticism had led to a better project at work, and how receiving a stranger's wisdom had enriched her evening. As she wrote, Sarah remembered something else Kelvin had said in the workshop. Receiving is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And just like building physical strength, there might be some discomfort along the way. But that discomfort is a sign of growth. Sarah realized that today, with all its ups and downs, had been a workout for her receiving muscle. It hadn't been easy, but she had pushed through, and she felt stronger for it. As she drifted off to sleep that night, Sarah felt a sense of excitement about what the next day might bring. She was beginning to understand that every interaction, every challenge, every moment was an opportunity to practice the art of receiving. In her dreams, Sarah saw herself as a flourishing plant, roots deep in the earth, leaves reaching towards the sky. She was receiving nourishment from the soil, receiving light from the sun, receiving rain from the clouds. And as she received, she grew stronger, taller, more vibrant. When Sarah woke the next morning, she felt refreshed and ready to face whatever the day might bring. As she watered her plants, she smiled at how they seemed to be thriving under her care. We're in this together, she told them. Learning to receive, learning to grow. And with that, Sarah stepped out into the world, open to receive whatever lessons, challenges, and joys the universe had in store for her. She knew there would be more storms to weather, but she also knew that with each challenge, she was becoming more skilled in the art of receiving. The journey wasn't always easy, but Sarah was beginning to understand that it was in navigating the difficult moments that the true power of receiving revealed itself. And she was ready for whatever came next. Chapter 4: Ripple Effects. As weeks passed, Sarah found herself settling into a new rhythm. The art of receiving was becoming less of a conscious effort and more of a natural state of being. She noticed changes not just in herself, but in her relationships and the world around her. One sunny Saturday morning, Sarah decided to take her new plants to the community garden she'd recently joined. As she carefully arranged her pots in the back of her car, she marveled at how much her little green family had grown. Each plant represented a lesson in nurturing and receiving, a living reminder of her journey. At the garden, Sarah was greeted by a chorus of friendly hellos. She'd been coming here for a few weeks now, drawn by Rose's suggestion that a community of fellow plant enthusiasts would enrich her gardening experience. Initially, Sarah had been hesitant, worried about fitting in or being judged for her novice status. But embracing the art of receiving had opened her up to new connections, and she found herself warmly welcomed into this vibrant community. "Morning, Sarah," called out George, a retired teacher with a passion for heirloom tomatoes. "Those new plants of yours are looking mighty fine." In the past, Sarah might have downplayed the compliment, but now she smiled brightly. Thank you, George. I've been learning so much from everyone here. It's really making a difference. As Sarah began working on her small plot, she found herself in easy conversation with her fellow gardeners. She asked questions freely, no longer afraid of appearing ignorant, and shared her own growing knowledge with enthusiasm. She was both giving and receiving in equal measure, and it felt wonderfully balanced. Midway through the morning, Lisa, a usually reserved woman with a gift for growing stunning orchids, approached Sarah's plot. Sarah, Lisa began hesitantly, I couldn't help but notice how vibrant your herbs are looking. I've been struggling with mine. I was wondering if you might have any tips? Sarah felt a surge of joy at being asked for advice. It was a testament to how far she'd come, both in her gardening skills and in her ability to connect with others. Of course, Sarah replied warmly. I'd be happy to share what I've learned. Why don't we take a look at your plot together? As they walked over to Lisa's herbs, Sarah gently probed for more information, using the listening skills she'd been honing both at work and in the garden. She realized that the act of receiving wasn't just about accepting compliments or help, but also about receiving others' trust and vulnerability. After discussing various strategies and swapping gardening stories, Lisa's face lit up with newfound enthusiasm. Thank you so much, Sarah. You know, I've always been a bit shy about asking for help, but you've made it so easy. Sarah smiled, recognizing her old self in Lisa's words. I know exactly what you mean. I'm learning that it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to offer it too. We're all here to learn from each other, right? As they parted ways, Sarah felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the morning sun. She was beginning to understand what Kelvin had meant about the ripple effects of receiving. By opening herself up to receive knowledge and connection, she had in turn been able to offer the same to Lisa. Later that afternoon, as Sarah was packing up her tools, her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. Hi, sweetheart. Hope you're having a good day. Dad and I were thinking of having a family dinner next weekend. Would you like to come? Sarah felt a familiar twinge of anxiety. Family dinners could be stressful, with unspoken expectations and old dynamics at play. In the past, she might have made an excuse to avoid it. But now, she paused and took a deep breath. What if she approached this as another opportunity to receive? That sounds lovely, Mom, she typed back. I'd be happy to come. Is there anything I can bring? The response was almost immediate. Just yourself, dear. We're looking forward to it. Sarah smiled, feeling a mix of nervousness and anticipation. She was choosing to receive her family's love and company, even if it came with complications. It was another step in her journey. As Sarah drove home, her car fragrant with the scent of herbs and flowers, she reflected on how much had changed in just a few short weeks. Her world felt bigger somehow, richer with possibilities and connections. At home, Sarah decided to call Emma and share her experiences. As the phone rang, she realized how much she valued this new friendship, another gift she had received from being open to new experiences. Sarah. Emma's voice was warm with genuine pleasure. I was just thinking about you. How are you doing? As Sarah recounted her day at the community garden and her upcoming family dinner, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. She was receiving Emma's friendship, her interest, her support. It sounds like you're really flourishing, Emma said. I'm so happy for you, Sarah. You know, seeing your journey has inspired me to work on my own receiving skills. Sarah felt a surge of joy at Emma's words. Really? That's wonderful, Emma. I'd love to hear more about it. As they chatted, Sarah realized that her journey wasn't just changing her own life. It was having a ripple effect on those around her. By embracing the art of receiving, she was creating a space for others to do the same. After saying goodbye to Emma, Sarah settled in for a quiet evening at home. As she prepared dinner, she found herself moving with a new sense of grace and purpose. She was receiving nourishment from her food, pleasure from the act of cooking, comfort from her cozy home. Sarah's eyes fell on the small journal where she had been documenting her journey. On impulse, she decided to write a letter to her future self. Dear future Sarah, I hope this letter finds you well and still open to receiving all the wonderful things life has to offer. I want you to remember this moment when you realize that receiving isn't just about what you get, it's about who you become. In these past weeks, I've learned that receiving is an art that touches every aspect of life. It's in the way we accept a compliment, ask for help, or simply allow ourselves to enjoy a beautiful day. It's about being open to love, to opportunities, to growth, even when it feels scary or uncomfortable. I've seen how this openness creates a ripple effect, touching the lives of those around us. By receiving, we give others the gift of giving. We create connections, foster understanding, and build a community of mutual support and appreciation. Remember, future Sarah, that this journey isn't always easy. There will be days when old habits creep back in, when it's tempting to close yourself off. But I hope you'll look back on these early days and remember the joy of opening up, the thrill of new connections, the peace that comes from aligning with the flow of life. Keep receiving, keep growing, keep spreading those ripples of openness and abundance. The best is yet to come. With love and gratitude, Sarah. As she closed her journal, Sarah felt a sense of peace wash over her. She looked around her apartment, at her thriving plants, at the mementos of new friendships, at the evidence of personal growth scattered throughout her space. She realized that her entire home had become a testament to the art of receiving. That night, as Sarah drifted off to sleep, she felt not just content, but excited for what the future might bring. She knew there would be more challenges ahead, more opportunities to practice and grow. But she also knew that she was equipped to face them with an open heart and an open mind. In her dreams, Sarah saw ripples spreading out across a vast, calm lake. With each ripple, flowers bloomed, trees grew, and people smiled. She realized that the ripples were coming from her open hands and open heart. As the ripples spread further and further, Sarah felt a profound sense of connection to everything and everyone they touched. When she awoke the next morning, the feeling of interconnectedness lingered. Sarah approached her day with a renewed sense of purpose. She understood now that receiving wasn't just about her personal growth. It was about contributing to a larger web of giving and receiving that connected all of life. As she got ready for the day ahead, Sarah smiled at her reflection in the mirror. The woman looking back at her was different from the one who had nervously attended a workshop on receiving just a few weeks ago. This Sarah stood taller, smiled easier, and radiated a quiet confidence. "Thank you," she said softly to her reflection, receiving and acknowledging her own growth with gratitude. And with that, Sarah stepped out into the world, ready to receive whatever the day might bring, and to create new ripples of openness and abundance wherever she went. The journey of receiving had only just begun, and Sarah couldn't wait to see where it would lead her next. Chapter 5. The Storm Within. Sarah woke up with a start, her heart racing. The dream had felt so real. She was back in her old apartment, surrounded by wilting plants, drowning in a sea of missed opportunities and unmet expectations. As she caught her breath, Sarah's eyes fell on her now thriving urban jungle, and she felt a wave of relief wash over her. It had just been a dream. But as she went about her morning routine, Sarah couldn't shake off a lingering sense of unease. Something felt off. She watered her plants, noticing how each one had grown and flourished over the past weeks, much like she had. Yet today, instead of feeling pride and joy, she felt a twinge of anxiety. What if she couldn't keep this up? What if it was all just a fluke? Sarah pushed these thoughts aside as she headed to work. She had a big presentation today, the revised proposal for the Johnson account. She'd worked hard on it, incorporating the feedback she'd received and the new insights she'd gained through her practice of receiving. But as she entered the office, the doubts came flooding back. Her colleague, Mark, greeted her with a smile. "Big day, huh? You've got this, Sarah." Sarah tried to smile back, but it felt forced. She wanted to receive Mark's encouragement, to let it bolster her confidence, but something was blocking it. It was as if all her old insecurities had ganged up on her, determined to undo all her progress. As she set up for the presentation, Sarah's hands shook slightly. She took a deep breath, trying to center herself. "Remember," she whispered, "you're open to receiving. Whatever happens in this room, you can handle it." The clients filed in, followed by her boss and several senior executives. Sarah began her presentation, her voice steadier than she felt. As she spoke about the revised strategy, she saw nods of approval, even a few smiles. But then came the questions. "This is certainly an improvement," said Mr. Johnson, the main client. "But I'm concerned about the timeline. It seems a bit ambitious." Sarah felt a familiar panic rising in her chest. In the past, she might have backpedaled, apologized, tried to change the proposal on the spot. But something made her pause. She took a deep breath, choosing to receive the question as an opportunity rather than a criticism. "Thank you for that observation, Mr. Johnson," she said, her voice calm. "The timeline is indeed ambitious, but let me walk you through why we believe it's achievable." As Sarah elaborated, drawing on her deep knowledge of the project and her newfound confidence, she saw the doubt in Mr. Johnson's eyes slowly give way to interest. By the end of her explanation, he was nodding thoughtfully. "Well," he said, "you've certainly done your homework. If you can deliver on this timeline, we'll be very impressed." The rest of the presentation went smoothly, and as the clients left, Sarah's boss approached her with a wide smile. "Excellent work, Sarah," he said. "You handled that timeline question beautifully. I'm proud of you." Sarah felt a warmth spread through her chest at his words. This time, she was able to receive the praise fully, without deflection or doubt. "Thank you, sir," she said simply. "I'm glad it went well." As the adrenaline of the presentation wore off, however, Sarah found herself feeling strangely deflated. She had succeeded, had proven to herself that she could handle a challenging situation with grace and confidence. So why did she feel so empty? She decided to take a walk during her lunch break, hoping some fresh air would clear her head. As she strolled through a nearby park, Sarah found herself at a small pond. She watched the ducks glide across the water, effortlessly receiving its support, and felt a lump form in her throat. Why was this so hard? She had been doing so well, had felt so open and receptive, but now it was as if a door had slammed shut inside her. She felt cut off from the flow of abundance she had been experiencing, and she didn't know why. Sarah pulled out her phone, intending to text Emma for support, but hesitated. What would she even say? "Hey, I'm having an existential crisis because I can't feel good about my success?" It sounded ridiculous, even to her. As she stood there, torn between reaching out and retreating into herself, Sarah remembered something Kelvin had said in the workshop. The art of receiving isn't just about the good stuff. It's about being open to all of life's experiences, including the difficult emotions, the doubts, the moments of struggle. These, too, have something to teach us if we're willing to receive the lesson. Sarah took a deep breath, trying to open herself to whatever she was feeling. As she did, the emotions came flooding in: doubt, fear, a deep sense of unworthiness. She felt tears prick at her eyes, but she didn't fight them. Instead, she let them come, receiving them as part of her experience. As she cried quietly by the pond, Sarah felt a gentle touch on her arm. She looked up to see an elderly woman looking at her with concern. "Are you all right, dear?" the woman asked softly. Sarah's first instinct was to nod, to say she was fine, to push away this stranger's concern. But instead, she chose to receive it. "I'm not sure," Sarah said honestly. "I think I'm struggling with some big feelings." The woman nodded understandingly. "Sometimes the big feelings need to be felt," she said. "Would you like to talk about it? Sometimes an outside perspective can help." Sarah hesitated for a moment, then nodded. As they sat on a nearby bench, Sarah found herself pouring out her story, her journey into the art of receiving, her recent successes, and the inexplicable emptiness she now felt. The woman listened attentively, nodding at times, her eyes full of compassion. When Sarah finished, she was silent for a moment before speaking. "You know," she said gently, "it sounds to me like you're doing exactly what you need to do. You're receiving, not just the good parts, but the challenging parts too. Growth isn't always comfortable, dear. Sometimes it feels like taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back. But that step back? It's just as important as the steps forward." Sarah felt something shift inside her at the woman's words. She was right. This struggle, these doubts, they were part of the journey too. By trying to push them away, she had been closing herself off from a crucial part of the receiving process. "Thank you," Sarah said, feeling a genuine smile spread across her face. "I needed to hear that." The woman patted her hand. "We all need a reminder sometimes." Now, How about we feed these ducks? I always find it soothing. As they tossed bits of bread to the eager ducks, Sarah felt the heaviness in her chest begin to lift. She was receiving this moment, the peacefulness of the pond, the kindness of a stranger, even the demanding quacks of the ducks, and it was exactly what she needed. When Sarah returned to the office, she felt more grounded. The doubts weren't gone, but they no longer overwhelmed her. She could receive them, acknowledge them, without letting them define her. That evening, as Sarah tended to her plants, she found herself talking to them about her day. You know, she said, gently wiping dust from a leaf, I think I understood something important today. Receiving isn't just about the sunshine and the water. It's about the storms too. They're all part of helping us grow. She paused, realizing the truth of her words. Just like her plants needed both sunshine and rain to thrive, she needed both joy and challenges to grow. Before bed, Sarah decided to write in her journal. As she reflected on the day, she realized that what she had experienced wasn't a setback, but a breakthrough. She had faced her inner storm and learned to receive even the difficult parts of her journey. She wrote, Dear self, today was hard, but important. I learned that receiving isn't always easy or comfortable. Sometimes it means sitting with difficult emotions, acknowledging doubts, and accepting that growth isn't always a straight line. I'm grateful for the struggle, for the tears, for the moment of connection with a kind stranger. I'm grateful for the reminder that I'm strong enough to weather inner storms. Most of all, I'm grateful for this journey. It's teaching me more than I ever imagined. About myself, about life, about what it truly means to be open to all that the universe has to offer. Tomorrow is a new day. I don't know what it will bring, but I know I'll be ready to receive it all. The joys and the challenges, the sunshine and the rain. With love and openness. Sarah. As she closed her journal, Sarah felt a deep sense of peace. She had faced a significant test today, and while it hadn't been easy, she had come through it with a deeper understanding of what it meant to truly receive. Sarah fell asleep that night with a soft smile on her face, ready to receive whatever tomorrow might bring. In her dreams, she saw herself as a strong, flexible tree, branches reaching towards the sky, roots deep in the earth, weathering all seasons with grace and strength. The journey of receiving, Sarah was learning, wasn't about perfection. It was about openness, resilience, and the courage to embrace all of life's experiences. And she was ready for all of it. Chapter 6, Family Ties. The day of the family dinner had arrived, and Sarah found herself standing in front of her closet, deliberating over what to wear. It was a simple decision, yet it felt weighted with significance. This would be the first time she'd see her family since beginning her journey into the art of receiving, and she wanted to feel confident and true to herself. She finally settled on a bright, floral dress she bought recently but hadn't had the courage to wear yet. As she slipped it on, Sarah smiled at her reflection. The dress was vibrant and joyful, much like how she felt on the inside these days. As she gathered her things to leave, Sarah's eyes fell on her thriving plants. Wish me luck, she said softly, gently touching a leaf. I'm going to need all the positive energy I can get. The drive to her parents' house was familiar, yet Sarah felt different. She was more aware, more present. She noticed the way the sunlight dappled through the trees, the cheerful colors of the flowers in people's gardens. She was receiving the beauty of the world around her in a way she never had before. As she pulled into the driveway, Sarah took a deep breath. Remember, she told herself, you're here to receive. Whatever happens, whatever is said, there's something to learn, something to accept. Her mother opened the door before Sarah could even knock, enveloping her in a warm hug. Sarah, darling, you look wonderful. Is that a new dress? Sarah smiled, accepting the compliment without deflection. It is, Mom. Thank you for noticing. As they walked into the house, Sarah was hit with a wave of familiar smells. Her mother's perfume, her father's aftershave, the aroma of roasting chicken. She allowed herself to receive these sensations fully, recognizing them as threads in the tapestry of her life. Her father emerged from the living room, a broad smile on his face. There's my girl, he said, pulling her into a bear hug. Sarah relaxed into the embrace, receiving his love without the usual tension she'd carried in the past. As they settled in the living room, Sarah's brother Tom arrived with his wife and their 2 young children. The house quickly filled with the chaos of family, laughter, squabbles, the patter of little feet. "So, Sarah," Tom said during a lull in the conversation, "Mom tells me you've been getting into gardening. Never thought I'd see the day my workaholic sister would have time for hobbies." In the past, Sarah might have bristled at this comment, seeing it as a criticism of her lifestyle. But now, she chose to receive it differently. She saw the underlying affection in Tom's teasing, the genuine interest behind his words. "It's been a wonderful change of pace," Sarah replied with a smile. "In fact, I've learned a lot from gardening that applies to other areas of my life too. It's taught me patience, nurturing, and the importance of creating the right conditions for growth." Her mother leaned forward, intrigued. "That sounds lovely, dear. You do seem different lately, more relaxed, somehow. Is everything all right at work?" Sarah could sense the concern behind her mother's question. She realized that her family was used to seeing her stressed and overwhelmed, and this new, more balanced Sarah was unfamiliar to them. "Everything's great, Mom," Sarah assured her. "I've just been working on receiving more, enjoying life more, being open to new experiences and perspectives." Her father raised an eyebrow. "Receiving? What do you mean by that?" Sarah paused, considering how to explain. "Well, it's about being open to all life has to offer, good and bad. It's about accepting compliments without deflecting them, asking for help when I need it, allowing myself to enjoy successes without immediately stressing about the next challenge." She saw a flicker of recognition in her mother's eyes. "That sounds wonderful, Sarah. I've always worried that you're too hard on yourself. It's good to see you. What did you call it? Receiving?" Sarah nodded, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. She was receiving her mother's approval, her father's curiosity, her brother's affectionate teasing, and it felt good. As the evening progressed, Sarah found herself more engaged in family dynamics than she had been in years. She listened attentively to her nephew's rambling story about his latest playground adventure, receiving his excitement and imagination. She offered to help her mother in the kitchen, receiving the quiet moments of connection as they worked side by side. During dinner, the conversation flowed easily. Sarah shared more about her gardening adventures, her work successes, and even touched on her journey into the art of receiving. To her surprise, her family was receptive and supportive. "You know," her father said thoughtfully, "I think I could learn a thing or two about this receiving business. I've always had a hard time accepting help or compliments. Maybe it's time for this old dog to learn some new tricks." Sarah felt a surge of joy at her father's words. She was not only practicing receiving herself, but also inspiring others to do the same. The ripple effect she'd noticed in other areas of her life was reaching her family too. As the evening wound down, Sarah found herself on the back porch with her mother, enjoying the cool night air. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, until her mother spoke. "Sarah, I want you to know how proud I am of you," she said softly. "Not just for your work achievements or your new hobbies, but for the person you're becoming. You seem more at peace with yourself. It's beautiful to see." Sarah felt tears prick at her eyes, but this time, they were tears of joy. She was receiving her mother's love and approval in a way she never had before. "Thank you, Mom," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "That means more to me than you know." As Sarah drove home that night, she felt a deep sense of contentment. The evening hadn't been perfect. There had been moments of tension, old patterns trying to reassert themselves, but she had navigated it all with a new sense of grace and openness. Back in her apartment, Sarah watered her plants, sharing the events of the evening with them as had become her habit. "You know," she said, gently pruning a leaf, "I think I finally understand what Kelvin meant about receiving being like a ripple in a pond. By opening myself up, I'm creating space for others to do the same. It's pretty amazing, actually." Before bed, Sarah took out her journal, eager to capture the insights of the day. "Dear self, today was a milestone. I went into a family gathering, something that used to fill me with stress and anxiety, and I was able to receive it all. The love, the concern, the teasing, the moments of connection. I received it all. But more than that, I saw how my journey is affecting those around me. Dad talking about wanting to learn to receive better, Mom noticing and appreciating the changes in me. It's like by opening myself up, I'm giving them permission to do the same. I'm beginning to see that receiving isn't just a personal practice. It's a way of being in the world that invites others to open up too. It's about creating a space where abundance can flow freely, not just to me, but through me to others. I'm grateful for this journey, for the challenges and the breakthroughs, for the small moments and the big revelations. I'm grateful for the ability to receive it all. Here's to continuing this journey, to staying open, to receiving whatever tomorrow brings. With love and openness, Sarah. As she closed her journal, Sarah felt a sense of excitement for what lay ahead. She was beginning to understand that the art of receiving was not just changing her life, but had the potential to change the lives of those around her too. She fell asleep that night with a smile on her face, dreaming of ripples spreading out across a vast, interconnected web of humanity. In her dream, each ripple carried with it the message, open up, receive. There is abundance enough for all. And in her sleep, Sarah's smile grew wider, for she knew that with each day, with each interaction, with each moment of openness, she was helping to spread that message. The journey of receiving was far from over, but Sarah was ready for whatever came next, open to receive it all with grace, gratitude, and an ever-expanding heart. Chapter 7. The Big Leap. Sarah walked into the office on Monday morning with a spring in her step. The family dinner had left her feeling grounded and connected, and she was eager to bring that positive energy into her work week. As she settled at her desk, her boss, Mr. Thompson, approached with an unusually serious expression. Sarah, can I see you in my office for a moment? He asked. A flicker of the old anxiety threatened to surface, but Sarah took a deep breath, centering herself. Whatever this was, she was ready to receive it. In Mr. Thompson's office, Sarah was surprised to see the CEO, Ms. Rodriguez, sitting there as well. Both wore unreadable expressions. Sarah, Mr. Thompson began. We've been impressed with your work lately, particularly how you handled the Johnson account. You've shown remarkable growth and leadership potential. Sarah felt a warmth spread through her chest at the praise. She received it fully, allowing herself to feel proud of her accomplishments. Ms. Rodriguez leaned forward. We have a proposition for you, Sarah. We're launching a new division focused on sustainable business practices, and we want you to head it up. It's a big job. You'll be building a team from the ground up, developing our sustainability strategy, and representing the company in this new space. Sarah's mind reeled. This was huge, far bigger than anything she'd ever taken on before. The old Sarah might have immediately doubted herself, might have started listing all the reasons she wasn't qualified. But the new Sarah, the one who had learned the art of receiving, took a moment to breathe and really hear what was being offered. This is an incredible opportunity, Sarah said, her voice steady. Can you tell me more about what you envision for this division? As Ms. Rodriguez outlined the plans, Sarah listened intently. She allowed herself to receive not just the information, but the trust and confidence her superiors were placing in her. It was overwhelming, but in a good way. We know it's a lot to take in, Mr. Thompson said. You don't have to decide right away. Take a few days to think it over. Sarah nodded, thanking them both. As she left the office, her mind was buzzing with possibilities. This was more than just a promotion. It was a chance to make a real difference, to align her work with her growing passion for nurturing and sustainability. Back at her desk, Sarah found it hard to focus on her regular tasks. She decided to take a walk to clear her head. As she strolled through a nearby park, she found herself at the pond where she'd had her breakthrough a few weeks ago. Watching the ducks glide across the water, Sarah reflected on how far she'd come. Just a short time ago, an opportunity like this would have terrified her. She would have been paralyzed by self-doubt, convinced she wasn't ready or worthy. But now, as she sat by the pond, Sarah realized she was experiencing something different. Yes, there was nervousness. This was a big step, after all. But underlying that was a sense of excitement, of readiness. She was open to receiving this opportunity, to rising to the challenge. Sarah pulled out her phone and called Emma. She needed to share this with someone who understood her journey. Emma, she said when her friend answered, you won't believe what just happened. As Sarah recounted the meeting, Emma listened supportively. "Wow, Sarah, that's amazing," she exclaimed. "How do you feel about it?" "Honestly, I'm scared," Sarah admitted, "but I'm also excited. I feel ready. Like everything I've been learning about receiving has been preparing me for this moment." "It sounds like it has," Emma agreed. "You know, when you first told me about this receiving thing, I thought it was just about accepting compliments or help. But it's so much more than that, isn't it? It's about being open to life's opportunities, believing you're worthy of them." Sarah felt a rush of affection for her friend. "Exactly. It's about trusting that you're exactly where you need to be, ready for whatever comes next." After hanging up, Sarah felt more centered. Talking it through with Emma had helped her see this opportunity clearly, not as something to fear, but as something to embrace. That evening, as Sarah tended to her plants, she shared her news with them. "What do you think, guys?" she asked, gently misting a fern. "Should I take the leap?" As if in response, she noticed a new shoot on one of her plants, a tender green sprout reaching towards the light. Sarah smiled, seeing it as a sign. Growth often meant venturing into new territory, reaching for something more. Over the next few days, Sarah allowed herself to receive all aspects of this opportunity. She received the excitement, the nervousness, the moments of doubt. She received the congratulations of colleagues who had heard the news, the supportive messages from Emma, the proud words from her parents when she called to tell them. She also did her research, reading about sustainable business practices, reaching out to contacts in the field. Sarah was receiving knowledge, receiving insights, receiving support from unexpected places. By the time she walked into Mr. Thompson's office to give her answer, Sarah felt a deep sense of calm. This wasn't just a decision she was making, it was an opportunity she was receiving. "I'd be honored to take on this role," Sarah said, her voice clear and confident. "I believe in the vision for this new division, and I'm excited to help bring it to life." Mr. Thompson's face broke into a wide smile. "I'm thrilled to hear that, Sarah. I knew you were the right person for this job." As they discussed next steps, Sarah felt a profound sense of alignment. This new role wasn't just a job. It was a chance to bring together everything she'd been learning about nurturing, growth, and receiving. That night, Sarah sat on her balcony, surrounded by her thriving plants, and wrote in her journal, "Dear self, today marks the beginning of a new chapter. I've been offered an incredible opportunity at work, and I've chosen to receive it fully. It's scary and exciting and overwhelming all at once, but I'm ready. I'm beginning to see how the art of receiving touches every aspect of life. It's not just about accepting compliments or help. It's about being open to life's possibilities, trusting that you're ready for whatever comes your way. This new role is a chance to bring together everything I've been learning. It's about nurturing, not just plants, but ideas, people, a whole new division. It's about growth, my own, my team's, the company's. And it's about sustainability, creating something that will last, that will make a real difference. I know there will be challenges ahead. There will be moments of doubt, of fear, of feeling overwhelmed. But I also know that I have the tools to face those moments. I can receive them, learn from them, grow through them. I'm grateful for this journey, for the lessons I've learned, the growth I've experienced, the people who have supported me along the way. I'm grateful for the ability to receive this opportunity, to say yes to this new adventure. Here's to the next chapter, to new growth, to receiving all that life has to offer. With love, gratitude, and openness, Sarah." As she closed her journal, Sarah looked out at the city lights twinkling in the distance. She felt a sense of connection, to her plants, to her home, to her work, to the wider world. Everything was interconnected, a vast web of giving and receiving. Sarah fell asleep that night with a smile on her face, excited for the journey ahead. In her dreams, she saw herself as a mighty oak tree, roots deep in the earth, branches reaching for the sky. She was receiving nourishment from the soil, receiving light from the sun, receiving rain from the clouds. And as she received, she grew stronger, taller, more vibrant. But the oak wasn't just receiving, it was giving too, providing shelter for birds, shade for smaller plants, stability for the soil around it. In giving and receiving, it had found its perfect balance. As the first light of dawn filtered through her window, Sarah awoke with a sense of purpose. She was ready to be like that oak tree, receiving abundantly, giving generously, growing continuously. The art of receiving had prepared her for this moment, and she was ready to embrace it fully. With a heart full of gratitude and a mind open to possibilities, Sarah stepped into her new day, ready to receive whatever it might bring. The journey of receiving had led her here, and she couldn't wait to see where it would take her next. Chapter 8: Growing Pains. Sarah's first day as head of the new sustainability division dawned bright and clear. As she dressed in her favorite power suit, she felt a mix of excitement and nervousness fluttering in her stomach. She paused by her plants, now lush and thriving, and took a deep breath. "Today's a big day," she told them, gently touching a leaf. "Wish me luck." As she entered the office, Sarah was greeted by a chorus of congratulations from her colleagues. She received each warm wish and kind word with genuine gratitude, allowing herself to feel the support of her work community. Mr. Thompson met her at the door of her new office, a spacious room with large windows overlooking the city. "Ready to get started?" he asked with an encouraging smile. Sarah nodded, feeling a surge of confidence. "Absolutely," she replied. The morning flew by in a whirlwind of meetings and introductions. Sarah met with HR to discuss hiring for her new team, with marketing to talk about announcing the new division, and with finance to go over budgets. It was overwhelming, but Sarah reminded herself to receive each piece of information, each new task, as part of the exciting journey she was embarking on. By lunchtime, Sarah's head was spinning. She decided to take her lunch to the small park near the office, needing some fresh air and a moment of calm. As she sat on a bench, unwrapping her sandwich, she noticed a young woman looking lost and frustrated, a map in her hands. In the past, Sarah might have kept to herself, focused on her own concerns. But now, she saw an opportunity to practice receiving in a different way. She approached the woman with a smile. "Excuse me," Sarah said. "You look a bit lost. Can I help you find something?" The woman looked up, relief washing over her face. "Oh, thank you. I'm trying to find the Natural History Museum. I'm new in town, and everything looks the same to me." As Sarah gave directions, she found herself receiving the woman's gratitude, her story of being new to the city, her excitement about exploring. It was a small interaction, but it left Sarah feeling energized and connected. Back at the office, Sarah faced her first real challenge in her new role. The team she had inherited from the previous sustainability initiative was resistant to some of her new ideas. In a tense meeting, one team member, John, was particularly vocal. "With all due respect, Ms. Walker," he said, his tone barely civil, "we've been working on sustainability issues for years. These new proposals of yours sound great in theory, but they're just not practical." Sarah felt a flash of anger and defensiveness. Her old instinct screamed at her to assert her authority, to shut down the criticism. But instead, she took a deep breath and chose to receive. "Thank you for your honesty, John," she said calmly. "You're right, you all have years of experience that I don't. I'd love to hear more about what you've tried in the past, what's worked and what hasn't. Your insights are incredibly valuable as we shape this new division." The tension in the room visibly eased. John, caught off guard by her response, began to share some of the team's past experiences. As Sarah listened, truly listened, she found herself receiving not just information, but the passion and frustration of a team that cared deeply about their work but felt unheard. By the end of the meeting, the energy had completely shifted. The team was engaged, offering ideas and suggestions. Sarah left feeling energized, knowing that by receiving her team's input, even when it was challenging, she had laid the groundwork for real collaboration. As the weeks passed, Sarah found herself constantly challenged to apply the art of receiving in new ways. She received feedback, both positive and negative, from her superiors. She received ideas from unexpected sources, like the janitor who had brilliant insights into reducing waste in the building. She received help from colleagues in other departments, learning to delegate and trust others' expertise. But it wasn't always easy. There were days when the weight of her new responsibilities felt overwhelming, when doubts crept in and old habits threatened to resurface. On one particularly challenging day, after a difficult meeting with investors skeptical about the value of the new division, Sarah found herself in the bathroom, fighting back tears. As she looked at herself in the mirror, she remembered Kelvin's words from the workshop. Receiving isn't just about the good stuff. It's about being open to all of life's experiences, including the difficult emotions, the doubts, the moments of struggle. Taking a deep breath, Sarah chose to receive this moment of vulnerability. She acknowledged her fears and doubts, receiving them not as weaknesses, but as part of her growth process. As she did, she felt a sense of calm wash over her. These feelings weren't enemies to be fought, but messengers to be heard. That evening, as Sarah tended to her plants, she shared her day with them as had become her habit. "You know," she said, misting a flourishing fern, "I think I understood something important today. Leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about being open to receiving ideas, feedback, even criticism. It's about creating a space where everyone feels heard and valued." She paused, realizing the truth of her words. Her journey into the art of receiving hadn't just prepared her for this role. It was the very thing that would make her successful in it. Before bed, Sarah took out her journal, eager to capture the insights of the day. "Dear self, what a month it's been. This new role is challenging me in ways I never expected, but I'm realizing that the art of receiving is my secret weapon. Today, I faced doubt and criticism, both from others and from myself. In the past, I might have seen these as signs of failure, but now, I'm learning to receive them as opportunities for growth, for connection, for deeper understanding. I'm beginning to see that leadership isn't about being the smartest person in the room or having all the answers. It's about being open to ideas, to feedback, to the wisdom and experience of others. It's about creating a space where everyone feels heard and valued, where innovation can flourish. The art of receiving isn't just a personal practice anymore. It's becoming the foundation of my leadership style, the core of how I approach my work and my team. There are still moments of doubt, of course, times when I wonder if I'm up to this challenge. But then I remember, I don't have to be perfect. I just have to be open. Open to learning, open to growth, open to receiving whatever each day brings. I'm grateful for this journey, for the challenges that push me to grow, for the team that challenges and inspires me, for the opportunity to make a real difference. Here's to continuing to receive, to learn, to grow. Here's to leading with an open heart and an open mind. With love and gratitude, Sarah." As she closed her journal, Sarah felt a sense of peace wash over her. She was exactly where she needed to be, facing exactly the challenges she needed to face to continue her growth. That night, Sarah dreamed she was tending to a vast garden. But this garden wasn't just filled with plants. It had ideas growing like flowers, challenges sprouting like trees, opportunities blooming in every corner. And Sarah moved through this garden with grace and purpose, nurturing each element, receiving the beauty and the struggle of it all. When she awoke, Sarah carried the energy of that dream with her. As she got ready for another day at the office, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. She was ready to receive whatever the day might bring. The victories and the setbacks, the praise and the criticism, the certainties and the doubts. Sarah stepped out into the morning sunshine, ready to nurture her team, grow her division, and continue her journey into the art of receiving. She knew there would be more challenges ahead, more opportunities for growth, more moments that would test her. But she also knew that with each day, with each interaction, with each choice to remain open, she was becoming more of who she was meant to be. The art of receiving had led her here, to this moment, to this opportunity to make a real difference in the world. And Sarah was ready to receive it all, with an open heart, an open mind, and a deep trust in the journey ahead. Chapter 9. The Storm. 3 months into her new role, Sarah felt like she was finally hitting her stride. Her team had warmed to her leadership style, and their first major sustainability initiative was gaining traction within the company. As she walked into the office that Monday morning, Sarah felt a sense of anticipation for the week ahead. But the universe, it seemed, had other plans. Sarah had barely settled at her desk when her assistant, Tom, burst in, his face pale. "Sarah, you need to see this," he said, handing her his tablet. Sarah's heart sank as she read the headline, "Tech Giant's Green Division, a Smokescreen for Environmental Destruction?" The article, published in a major news outlet, accused their company of greenwashing, using the new sustainability division as a PR move while continuing environmentally harmful practices. For a moment, Sarah felt like she couldn't breathe. This was exactly the kind of crisis she had feared when taking on this role. Her mind raced with defensive thoughts, with the urge to immediately deny everything. But then, almost instinctively, she took a deep breath. "Receive," she whispered to herself. "Stay open." "Thank you for bringing this to my attention, Tom," Sarah said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Please set up an emergency meeting with the team for 30 minutes from now, and see if you can get me a meeting with Mr. Thompson and Ms. Rodriguez as soon as possible." As Tom left to carry out her instructions, Sarah forced herself to read the article thoroughly. It was a scathing piece, citing anonymous sources within the company and presenting data that, taken out of context, painted a damning picture. Sarah's first instinct was to feel attacked, to view this as a threat to everything she'd been working towards. But as she sat with these feelings, she remembered Kelvin's words, "Receiving isn't just about the good stuff. Sometimes it's about being open to criticism, to challenging perspectives. There's always something to learn, if we're willing to listen." Taking another deep breath, Sarah chose to receive this crisis as an opportunity. An opportunity for growth, for transparency, for real change. When her team gathered, their faces a mix of panic and anger, Sarah remained calm. "I know this article comes as a shock to all of us," she began. "But before we react, I want us to take a moment to really hear what's being said. Not to defend, not to deny, but to listen. What can we learn from this?" Her approach caught the team off guard. John, who had become one of her strongest supporters, spoke up. "But Sarah, these accusations are false. We need to fight back, to set the record straight." Sarah nodded, acknowledging his perspective. "And we will, John. But first, we need to understand. Every criticism, even if it's not entirely accurate, comes from somewhere. What are we missing? How are we being perceived? And most importantly, how can we use this as an opportunity to do better?" As the team began to discuss the article point by point, Sarah was amazed at the insights that emerged. They identified areas where their communication could be clearer, where their practices could be improved. What had started as a crisis was turning into a brainstorming session for how to make their initiatives even stronger. Later that day, Sarah met with Mr. Thompson and Ms. Rodriguez. She had braced herself for their anger or disappointment, but chose to remain open, ready to receive whatever came. To her surprise, they were impressed with her handling of the situation so far. "You're taking a very mature approach to this, Sarah," Ms. Rodriguez said. "Many leaders in your position would be on the defensive, but you're looking for ways to grow. That's exactly why we chose you for this role." Sarah felt a warmth spread through her chest at these words. She was receiving their support, their confidence in her, and it bolstered her own confidence. Over the next few weeks, Sarah led her team through the storm. They worked tirelessly, not just to address the accusations in the article, but to genuinely evaluate and improve their practices. Sarah reached out to environmental experts, including some of their critics, inviting them to audit their processes and provide feedback. It wasn't an easy time. There were long nights, heated debates, moments of doubt and frustration. But through it all, Sarah remained committed to receiving ideas, receiving criticism, receiving support from unexpected places. One evening, as Sarah was working late in her office, she received an unexpected visit from the company's janitor, Mr. Chun. "Ms. Walker," he said hesitantly, "I hope I'm not disturbing you. I've been reading about what's happening, and well, I have some ideas that might help." In the past, Sarah might have politely dismissed him, too stressed to consider input from an unexpected source. But now, she smiled warmly. "I'd love to hear your ideas, Mr. Chen. Please, have a seat." As Mr. Chen shared his thoughts, drawing from years of observing the company's day-to-day operations, Sarah listened intently. His perspective was unique and valuable, offering insights into areas of waste and inefficiency that nobody else had noticed. By the end of their conversation, Sarah had pages of notes and a new ally in her mission. "Mr. Chun, thank you so much for this," she said sincerely. "Would you be interested in joining our sustainability task force? We could really use your expertise." The pride and joy on Mr. Chin's face was palpable. "I would be honored, Ms. Walker. Thank you for listening to an old janitor's ideas." As Mr. Chin left, Sarah felt a renewed sense of purpose. By remaining open, by being willing to receive wisdom from all sources, she was discovering solutions she never would have considered otherwise. The crisis came to a head a month after the article was published. Sarah and her team had prepared a comprehensive response, not just a rebuttal, but a transparent look at their practices, acknowledging areas for improvement and outlining concrete steps for change. Sarah stood before a room full of journalists, her team behind her, and took a deep breath. She could feel the weight of the moment, the potential for things to go very wrong. But she also felt a deep sense of calm. She was ready to receive whatever came. The tough questions, the skepticism, even the hostility. "Thank you all for coming," she began. "A month ago, we were accused of greenwashing, of using sustainability as a PR tool rather than a genuine commitment. Those accusations hurt, but they also forced us to take a hard look at ourselves. And for that, we are grateful." As Sarah outlined their findings and their plans for the future, she could see the surprise on the journalists' faces. This wasn't the defensive, corporate response they had expected. This was honest, transparent, and forward-thinking. The Q&A session that followed was intense, but Sarah remained open, receiving each question as an opportunity to clarify, to demonstrate their commitment, to show how they were turning this crisis into catalyst for real change. By the end of the press conference, the mood in the room had shifted. There was still skepticism, of course, but also a growing sense of respect and cautious optimism. As Sarah left the podium, she felt a profound sense of accomplishment. Not because everything was perfect, far from it. There was still so much work to do. But because she and her team had faced this challenge with openness and integrity. That night, as Sarah tended to her plants, which had somewhat taken over her apartment at this point, she reflected on the journey of the past month. "You know," she said to a particularly lush fern, "I used to think receiving was about getting good things, compliments, opportunities, gifts. But now I understand it's so much more. It's about being open to everything life brings, the challenges, the criticisms, the unexpected allies. It's about creating space for growth, especially when it's uncomfortable." Before bed, Sarah took out her journal. "Dear self, what a month it's been. When that article hit, I thought it was the end of everything I'd been working towards. But by choosing to receive, to stay open, to listen, to learn, it became the beginning of something even better. I'm starting to understand that the art of receiving isn't a passive thing. It's not about just accepting whatever comes your way. It's about creating an openness that allows for true growth and change. It's about having the courage to look honestly at yourself and your actions, to welcome feedback, even when it's hard to hear. This crisis taught me that receiving isn't just a personal practice. It's a leadership strategy, a way of approaching challenges that can transform not just individuals, but entire organizations. I'm grateful for this lesson, as hard as it was. I'm grateful for my team, for Mr. Chin, for every person who challenged us and pushed us to be better. I'm even grateful for that article, for showing us where we needed to grow. The journey isn't over. There's still so much work to do, so much to learn and improve. But I feel ready for it, ready to receive whatever comes next, to keep growing, to keep pushing for real change. Here's to staying open, to receiving it all, and to using every experience, good or bad, as an opportunity for growth. With love and endless gratitude, Sarah." As she closed her journal, Sarah felt a deep sense of peace. The past month had been one of the most challenging of her life, but also one of the most transformative. She had discovered strengths she didn't know she had forged deeper connections with her team, had found wisdom in unexpected places. Sarah fell asleep that night with a smile on her face, excited for whatever the next day might bring. In her dreams, she saw herself as a mighty oak tree once again. But this time, the tree was weathering a fierce storm. Its branches swayed in the wind. Some leaves were torn away, but its roots grew deeper. Its trunk stood strong. The storm wasn't breaking the tree. It was making it stronger, more resilient. And as the dream faded and dawn broke, Sarah awoke ready to face the day, ready to receive, to grow, to lead with an open heart and an open mind. The journey of receiving had led her here, through the storm, and she was excited to discover where it would take her next. Chapter 10. Full Circle. As the dust settled from the crisis at work, Sarah found herself with a moment to breathe. The sustainability division was stronger than ever, buoyed by their transparent response to criticism and their genuine commitment to improvement. But as the professional whirlwind calmed, Sarah realized she had been neglecting other areas of her life. It was a lazy Sunday morning when this realization hit her. Sarah was tending to her plants, which had become a jungle of green in her apartment, when her phone buzzed with a text from Emma. "Hey stranger, feel like I haven't seen you in ages. Everything okay?" Sarah felt a pang of guilt. In the chaos of the past few months, she had let many of her personal relationships slide. She had been so focused on receiving in her professional life that she had forgotten to apply the same openness to her personal connections. "I'm so sorry, Emma," Sarah typed back. "Work has been crazy, but that's no excuse. Can we get together this week? I miss you." As she waited for Emma's response, Sarah looked around her apartment. It was a testament to her journey. Thriving plants in every corner, journals filled with reflections on receiving, mementos from her professional victories. But something was missing. The space felt lonely. Emma's reply came quickly. "Of course. How about dinner at that new vegetarian place on Tuesday? 7 p.m.? Sarah smiled, already looking forward to reconnecting with her friend. "Perfect. Can't wait." As she confirmed the plan, Sarah made a decision. It was time to apply the art of receiving to her personal life with the same dedication she had given her professional growth. That evening, Sarah called her parents. As the phone rang, she felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. When was the last time she had called just to chat, not because of a special occasion or a crisis? "Sarah." Her mother's voice was warm with surprise. "Is everything all right?" "Everything's fine, Mom," Sarah assured her. I just wanted to talk, to hear how you and Dad are doing." What followed was one of the most genuine conversations Sarah had had with her parents in years. She shared stories about work, about her plants, about her journey into receiving. But more importantly, she listened. She received her mother's stories about the book club she had joined, her father's excitement about a new woodworking project. As they talked, Sarah felt a warmth spreading through her chest. She was receiving her parents' love, their interest in her life, their pride in her accomplishments, and she was giving in return. Her attention, her genuine interest, her love. When she hung up, Sarah felt both energized and peaceful. This, she realized, was what receiving was all about. Not just in big moments or professional crises, but in the small, everyday interactions that made up a life. Tuesday evening found Sarah at the restaurant, waiting for Emma. As her friend walked in, Sarah was struck by how much she had missed her. They hugged, and Sarah allowed herself to fully receive the warmth and affection in Emma's embrace. As they settled into their seats, Emma gave Sarah a knowing look.
Hulright, spill.
"What's been going on with you? And don't just give me the highlight reel. I want the real story." In the past, Sarah might have deflected, might have given a polished version of events. But now, she took a deep breath and opened up. She shared the triumphs and the challenges of the past few months, the growth and the doubts, the moments of clarity and the times of confusion. Emma listened intently, asking thoughtful questions and offering support. As Sarah talked, she felt layers of stress and isolation falling away. She was receiving Emma's friendship, her understanding, her acceptance of both Sarah's strengths and her vulnerabilities. "Wow, Sarah," Emma said when she had finished. "You've been through so much. I'm so proud of how you've handled everything. But I have to ask, are you happy?" The question caught Sarah off guard. Was she happy? She had been so focused on growth, on improvement, on handling crises, that she hadn't really stopped to consider her own happiness. I'm not sure," Sarah admitted. "I'm fulfilled in my work. I'm growing. But happy? I think I've forgotten what that feels like in the day-to-day." Emma reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "Then maybe that's your next area to work on. You've mastered receiving in your professional life. Maybe it's time to receive joy, to receive happiness, to receive love." Sarah felt tears prick at her eyes. Emma was right. She had become so focused on receiving challenges and growth opportunities that she had forgotten to remain open to life's simpler pleasures. As they left the restaurant, plans already made for their next get-together, Sarah felt a shift inside her. She was ready for a new chapter in her receiving journey, one focused on joy, on connection, on receiving the full spectrum of what life had to offer. Over the next few weeks, Sarah made a conscious effort to open herself to receiving in her personal life. She joined a local gardening club, sharing her love of plants with others and receiving their wisdom and friendship in return. She started volunteering at a community garden, receiving the simple joy of helping things grow and connecting with her community. She also started dating again, something she had put on hold during her intense focus on work. Sarah approached dating with a new mindset, one of openness and receiving. She allowed herself to be vulnerable, to receive compliments without deflection, to be open to the possibility of love. One evening, as she was leaving the community garden, Sarah quite literally bumped into a man named Alex. As she apologized, helping him pick up the books he had dropped, their eyes met and Sarah felt a spark of connection. "No harm done," Alex said with a warm smile. "I'm Alex, by the way. I've seen you working in the garden. It's looking amazing." Sarah felt herself blush slightly. "Thank you. I'm Sarah." The garden is a labor of love for all of us volunteers. They fell into easy conversation, and before Sarah knew it, an hour had passed. As they prepared to part ways, Alex hesitated for a moment. "Sarah, I hope this isn't too forward, but would you like to get coffee sometime?" In the past, Sarah might have made an excuse, might have let fear or doubt hold her back. But now, she chose to receive this moment, this opportunity for connection. "I'd love to," she said, her smile genuine and open. As she walked home that evening, Sarah felt a lightness in her step that had been missing for a long time. She was opening herself not just to professional growth or personal development, but to joy, to possibility, to love. That night, as she tended to her plants, Sarah found herself humming a happy tune. She realized with a start that she was happy, not in a grand, dramatic way, but in a quiet, contented way that felt both new and familiar. Before bed, Sarah took out her journal. "Dear self, today, I think I finally understood what Kelvin meant when he said that receiving was about opening ourselves to all of life's experiences. For so long, I've been focused on receiving in big ways, receiving challenges at work, receiving opportunities for growth. And those things are important. But I had forgotten to receive the small joys, the warmth of a friend's hug, the pride in my parents' voices, the flutter of excitement at a new connection. I had forgotten to receive happiness itself. I'm beginning to see that the art of receiving isn't just about personal growth or professional success. It's about fully embracing life in all its forms. It's about being open to joy, to love, to simple moments of contentment. My journey into receiving has come full circle. It started with learning to receive compliments and help. It grew into a tool for professional growth and leadership. And now, it's teaching me how to truly live, how to be open to all the beauty and love this world has to offer. I'm grateful for this journey, for the challenges that have helped me grow, for the friends who have supported me, for the new connections I'm making. I'm grateful for the ability to receive it all, the big and the small, the profound and the simple. Here's to continuing to receive, to staying open, to embracing life in all its fullness. Here's to receiving joy, receiving love, receiving the everyday magic that surrounds us if we're only willing to see it. With love, gratitude, and an open heart. Sarah. As she closed her journal, Sarah felt a deep sense of peace and excitement for what lay ahead. She had come so far in her journey of receiving, and yet she knew there was still so much to learn, so much to experience. That night, Sarah dreamed of a vast, beautiful garden. But unlike her previous dreams, she wasn't just tending this garden. She was part of it. She was a flower, opening her petals to receive the sun's warmth, the rain's nourishment, the gentle touch of butterflies. And as she received, she bloomed, her colors vivid and beautiful, her fragrance a gift to the world around her. When Sarah awoke, she carried the energy of that dream with her. As she got ready for her day, she felt a profound sense of connection to herself, to others, to the world around her. She was ready to receive whatever the day might bring, not just the challenges and growth opportunities, but the joy, the love, the simple moments of beauty. Sarah stepped out into the morning sunshine, ready to receive life in all its fullness. Her journey into the art of receiving had transformed her in ways she never could have imagined. And as she walked towards her future, open-hearted and ready, Sarah knew that the most beautiful chapters of her story were yet to be written. The art of receiving had led her here, to this moment of beautiful balance between giving and receiving, between growth and joy, between self and others. And Sarah was ready to receive it all, with grace, with gratitude, and with an ever-expanding capacity for love and abundance. Epilogue. The ripple effect. 1 year had passed since Sarah's journey into the art of receiving began. As she stood at the podium, looking out at the sea of faces before her, she couldn't help but marvel at how much had changed. The occasion was the company's annual sustainability conference, but this year was special. For the first time, it wasn't just employees in attendance, but representatives from other companies, environmental organizations, and even some of their former critics. Sarah's division had become a model for corporate sustainability, and others were eager to learn from their experience. As Sarah began her speech, she felt a sense of calm and purpose wash over her. "A year ago," she began, "if you had told me I'd be standing here today, I wouldn't have believed you. Not because I doubted our commitment to sustainability, but because I doubted myself. I didn't know how to receive success, criticism, help, or even my own potential." She paused, looking out at the attentive faces. "But then I learned about the art of receiving, and it changed everything. Not just for me, but for our entire organization." As Sarah shared the story of their journey, the initial struggles, the crisis that became a catalyst for change, the ongoing commitment to transparency and growth, she could see people nodding, taking notes, leaning in to listen more closely. "The art of receiving isn't just about being open to the good things in life," Sarah explained. "It's about being open to everything life brings us, the challenges, the criticism, the unexpected allies, the moments of doubt. It's about creating a space where true growth and change can happen." After the speech, as people crowded around to ask questions and share their own experiences, Sarah felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned to see Kelvin, the workshop leader who had first introduced her to the art of receiving. "Kelvin," Sarah exclaimed, pulling him into a hug. "I had no idea you were here." Kelvin's eyes twinkled with pride. "I wouldn't have missed it for the world, Sarah. When I got the invitation to this conference, I knew something special was happening here." As they found a quiet corner to talk, Sarah felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. "Kelvin, I can't thank you enough. That workshop, it changed my life in ways I never could have imagined." Kelvin smiled warmly. "You did all the hard work, Sarah. I just opened the door. You're the one who chose to walk through it, to embrace receiving in all aspects of your life." As they chatted, Sarah shared more about her journey, not just the professional successes, but the personal growth as well. She told him about her thriving friendships, her deeper connection with her family, and her blossoming relationship with Alex. "It sounds like you've really embraced the fullness of receiving," Kelvin observed. "You've created a beautiful balance in your life." Sarah nodded, feeling a sense of contentment wash over her. "It hasn't always been easy," she admitted. "There were times when I wanted to retreat, to close myself off. But I've learned that staying open, even when it's uncomfortable, always leads to growth." As the conference wound down, Sarah found herself in the company garden, a new addition to the corporate campus that she had championed. As she walked among the plants, many of which had come from cuttings of her own home jungle, she reflected on how far she'd come. Her phone buzzed with a text from Alex. "Hope the conference went well. Can't wait to hear all about it. Dinner tonight?" Sarah smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. Her relationship with Alex had blossomed over the past year, built on a foundation of open communication and mutual support. They had both embraced the art of receiving in their own ways, creating a partnership that was nurturing and growth-oriented. As she typed her reply, Sarah noticed Emma walking towards her, a broad smile on her face. "Sarah, your speech was amazing," Emma said, pulling her into a hug. "I'm so proud of you." Sarah hugged her back. feeling profoundly grateful for their friendship. Emma had been there from the beginning of this journey, offering support, insight, and the occasional loving push when Sarah needed it. "I couldn't have done it without you, Em," Sarah said sincerely. "Your friendship, it's been such a gift." As they walked through the garden together, Sarah and Emma reflected on the past year. They laughed about Sarah's initial skepticism towards the whole idea of receiving, marveled at how far she'd come. "You know," Emma said thoughtfully, "watching your journey has inspired me to embrace receiving in my own life. I've started taking more chances, opening myself up to new experiences. It's been transformative." Sarah felt a surge of joy at Emma's words. The ripple effect of receiving was real. By embracing it herself, she had created space for others to do the same. That evening, as Sarah prepared for her dinner with Alex, she took a moment to write in her journal, "Dear self, what a day, what a year. As I stood at that podium today, sharing our journey with others, I was struck by how far we've come, not just as a company, but as individuals. The art of receiving has transformed every aspect of my life. It's changed how I lead, how I love, how I live. I've learned to stay open, even when it's scary, to receive criticism as an opportunity for growth, challenges as a chance to innovate, love as a gift to be cherished. But what amazes me most is how this journey has affected others. Emma embracing new experiences. Alex and I building a relationship based on openness and mutual support. My team at work, learning to receive each other's ideas and contributions. Even other companies, inspired by our transparency and growth. It's like Kelvin said in that first workshop, receiving creates a ripple effect. By opening ourselves, we create space for others to do the same. We create a culture of openness, of growth, of abundance. As I look to the future, I'm filled with excitement and gratitude. I know there will be more challenges ahead, more opportunities for growth. But I also know that I have the tools to face whatever comes my way. I know how to receive it all, the good, the bad, and everything in between. Here's to continuing this journey of receiving, to staying open, to growing, to creating ripples of positive change in the world around us. Here's to the art of receiving in all its beautiful, challenging, transformative glory, with love, gratitude, and an ever-open heart. Sarah. As Sarah closed her journal, she felt a deep sense of peace and purpose. She looked around her apartment at the thriving urban jungle she had created, each plant a testament to her growth. She thought of the company garden, of the sustainable practices they were implementing, of the lives they were touching. She thought of her relationship with Alex, of the deep friendships she had cultivated, of the stronger bonds with her family. She thought of all the people who had been part of her journey, Kelvin, Emma, her team at work, even the critics who had pushed them to be better. Sarah realized that the art of receiving had become more than just a personal practice. It was a way of being in the world, a way of creating space for growth, for connection, for positive change. It was a gift she had received, and one she was now passing on to others. As she left for her dinner with Alex, Sarah paused at the doorway, taking in the life she had created. She felt profoundly grateful, not just for the good things, but for all of it. The challenges, the growth, the lessons learned. "Thank you," she whispered to the universe. "I'm ready to receive whatever comes next." And with that, Sarah stepped out into the evening, open-hearted and ready for the next chapter of her journey. She knew that whatever life brought her way, she had the most powerful tool at her disposal, the art of receiving. It had transformed her life, and she knew it had the power to transform the world. As she walked down the street, Sarah couldn't help but smile. The art of receiving had started as a simple workshop, a curious experiment. But it had become a way of life, a path to true abundance, a means of creating positive change. And the journey, Sarah knew, was far from over. It was, in fact, just beginning. For every day brought new opportunities to receive, to grow, to spread the ripples of openness and abundance further into the world. The art of receiving had opened up a world of possibilities, and Sarah was ready to embrace them all, one open-hearted moment at a time.